Longhorns, as we talked about yesterday, have big expectations because they're one of the blue bloods who has big expectations every year. But I think we have their schedule available.
So we kind of broke it down into halves, right? Because we wanted to kind of first of all, it's 12 games trying to fit on this screen is difficult, so I'll leave it at that. Secondly, I think it's interesting looking at first half versus second half because they kind of have similar-ish slates on that front in the sense that, yeah, you're going to start with Texas State and UTSA, two teams you should beat, but are more challenging than the slate that you faced last year heading into the slate. Like you're not if you struggle against either one of these two, I feel like that's more excusable than UTEP.
Mm-hmm.
Just my personal 2 cents on that front, but that's just because we have insider Texas information on that front. Like I've covered Texas State and UTSA, and both those two teams can be somewhat dangerous. But to sandwich those two around Ohio State, which will be the first bellwether of this group, and just a reminder that Ohio State threw Texas for a loop last year, and that was kind of the beginning of, is this offense real?
Mm-hmm.
What is this? What can we expect from Arch Manning? How are we going to juggle expectations for this Longhorn group now that they dropped the biggest game of the year right out the gate? Changes a little bit of the dynamic having it in week 2 this time.
Yeah, I mean, Jonah, I don't know what your perception of that Ohio State-Texas game was last year, but I remember thinking, like, this is Arch Manning's real, like, first taste of being the guy leading this offense, having all of the expectations on his shoulders. And by the way, he's playing in the shoe against, in front of a crowd that...
Defending champs.
Probably behind Michigan is one of those teams that, like, the crowd is going to get up for because maybe this is just my bias, but like
it's Texas. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for saying it so that I didn't have to. But, I think that was a lot for a young, when it comes to experienced guy to handle, even if you are a Manning and you're used to insane expectations and pressure because of your last name.
All fair. But that's what they're paying them for.
Right.
Like that is you.
I love that that's a phrase we can say now.
I know. It's so great. We used to have to tap dance. Now it's like, no, it's literally just getting paid millions to go be the quarterback of the Longhorns. Yeah, I mean, all fair. But that is the role of the job. If he goes out and lays more eggs this year, then what are we excusing? The role of the quarterback is to go and win games in hard environments. I get it. Week 1, that's a tough draw, right? To go play at Ohio State. But this year, I don't think there should be any excuses, any big road games, whatever. He's got to be the man. And no pun intended. Andrews, yeah, there it is. I was just waiting for him to chime in there.
Thank you for cutting it off before he got out.
He's got to be the Manning.
There you go.
He does. And if he's not, Texas isn't going to do much at all this season, because it all plays through him.
Well, speaking of the man, we finally have the man joining us, Jeff Jones. So sorry about the technical difficulties that we put on your plate to start your day, but there he is. Thanks for joining the show. It's our first time having him on UDSS. What a treat.
Hey, thanks for the invitation. I'm sorry for my role in the technical difficulties. My laptop wasn't agreeing, so I've changed to my phone. I've changed location, and now, we got the basketball goal behind us, so I think that's going to be good luck for us, right?
I love it. Jeff, I don't know if
Jeff, I want to know the real reason. It's because you were on the green egg and you just had to make sure you got the timer set before you hopped on with us, right?
I already like the direction of this conversation. Anything that is typical dad life is exactly what I'm living. Of course, what you're alluding to is my prowess in grilling. Yesterday, I was on the Traeger, made some delicious chicken. Today, mowed the backyard and half of the front yard before I came inside, and I said, I got to chat with some of my people about some football.
Isn't that a sign of football season?
Yes,
the grill going, is football everything?
He's ready for college football season if any of us are.
That's it.
Jeff, I do want your thoughts on the Longhorns' schedule.
This is just the first half, Jeff. So what sticks out to you specifically, is aside from obviously the Ohio State matchup, but is this a reasonable start to the year?
Yeah, I mean, this is – it's – I hate the phrase "it is what it is, but it applies here. And what I'm alluding to is the fact that the part of the schedule we have up here is just an introduction to how tough this schedule is going to be. Texas has 5 opponents ranked in the top 11, 7 in the top 25. Ohio State, of course, the one that jumps off the page here. But when you show the next page, you're going to see one of the top-ranked LSU teams, number 8 Texas A&M team. This schedule is tough. What I do like about it, though, so many games for the Longhorns are played inside of the Lone Star State. Of course, starting with week 2 against Ohio State. Texas went toe-to-toe with the Buckeyes in Columbus last year with a roster that I feel like was not as good of a Texas roster as it is this year. And Ohio State's roster last year, probably a little better than it is this year. I think that game is going to have a different result because the change in location, because the change in talent on the roster. I think we could see a change in result.
I want to touch more on that roster because obviously I think everybody knows the name of Arch Manning, and then there's a fall off, right? And I guess what position group sticks out to you as what could be Texas's biggest strength and maybe biggest upgrade from 1 year ago?
That's a great question. And there are a few different ways I can answer that one, Michelle. I do like what you said, though, about the fact that everyone knows Arch Manning's name. You said, and then there's a fall off. I think, and then there's a fall off in maybe popularity, but not in talent. I don't think
Yes,
Arch Manning is the
100%.
most talented player on this roster. I don't know for a fact he's going to be the highest drafted player on this roster. I think Colin Simmons might be the most talented player on the roster, probably the best pure edge rusher in the country. I think Cam Coleman might be the second most talented player on the roster. He could be, if not then the second most talented receiver in the nation right now. And so those two guys stand out as names that Longhorn fans need to know. You asked specifically about a position group that might impress. Let's talk about some defensive backs. That's a young position group for Texas, but there are 2 guys in particular who have been shining in preseason practice. That's sophomore Grayson Littleton, who should have been a freshman All-American last year, and sophomore Jonah Williams. One of the more impressive things about Jonah to me, he was a high 4-star, maybe low 5-star recruit in football and a high 4-star, maybe low 5-star recruit in baseball. He knew he was going to play both at whatever college he went to. Texas had premier programs in both sports. He is a true contributor in both of those premier programs. I had a chance to sit down and chat with Jonah last week at an event we held at KVUE here in Austin, and I asked him about the difficulties of being a 2-sport athlete. His answer really interesting. He said the way you lift weights for football is different than the way you lift weights for baseball. And so when he's working out, he has to consciously know what sport he's training for in that moment. Just a really cool perspective on things. I posted that soundbite and a few others on my Instagram page earlier this morning. So if you want to hear more from him about the future of the Longhorns DBs, check it out.
I did see that. It's awesome. And gosh, to be that good at
All you have to do is like hashtag Longhorns, and she's on that. It hits her feed. It's like right at the top. Don't worry.
No, it's because I'm a big Jeff Jones super fan.
Yeah,
Come
of course.
on.
That too.
Come on.
There we go. And the feeling is mutual there. I'm a fan of the busiest person in our industry, and that's you, Michelle. I feel like if you're not at a Rangers game or seeing you at a Spurs game, or you're tweeting something about the Longhorns, talking Cowboys all the time. So, yeah, bunch of respect for you and a big fan of yours.
Well, it's mutual. It's mutual. Go ahead, Jonah.
Whoa, good feedback there. What are you asking me? What's the question?
I mean,
I'm giving you the floor.
I was about to
for
ask,
once. This is your one chance.
because Jeff's just sitting
I
here
think
talking about.
I've taken up enough oxygen on this show for one day, but yes. No,
What? Go ahead.
I think, Jeff, my question for you is,
Okay, go ahead.
my question would be, is that first half of the schedule, what would be panic button situation for Texas? Besides like losing to Texas State, obviously. But I'm saying, what, you lose to Ohio State and then maybe lose at Tennessee? Is that
I think one more.
panic button yet? Okay.
Yeah, I believe one more loss. So you drop one to Ohio State, especially if it's a close one at home. I think people can eventually get over that. If you drop 2 in this first, let's add Texas State here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you drop 2 before the end of October, I think that's a huge problem. A huge problem. You can still find a way to make the playoff, like the SEC, there's still a path to win that. But Yeah, if you lose two before the month of November, the panic button will be hit. Absolutely. The panic button was almost hit this morning. Actually, it was hit this morning. I don't know if you guys saw the news. Michelle, I know you did because,
Yeah,
like
the
you said,
offensive
you're
lineman. Yeah.
clued into all things Longhorns. But we were talking about some of the best Longhorns on this year's roster. Trevor Gooseby could be the best offensive tackle in the nation. I expect him to be a top 5 or 10 NFL draft pick. And this morning, my friend Anwar Richardson broke the news that Trevor left practice on Monday with an apparent knee injury. More reporting came out. We found out that it was a kind of ugly looking non contact injury. A lot of fans were reaching out asking exactly what was going on. And you don't want to speculate on that kind of stuff. But ESPN's Pete Thamel did find out that it's a bone bruise and not, some structural ligament damage like we feared it could be. A bone bruise, there's a lot of variance in what that could be. I think many of us as sports fans remember Anthony Edwards suffered a bone bruise in the NBA playoffs recently. He came back 10 days later, which was insane. Nobody expected that. When that dude came back, he was bouncing like I do on that goal over there. Like he was making it look easy, even with the messed up knee. I don't know if that's going to be Trevor Gooseby's timetable because, he's not fighting for a spot in the Western Conference Finals right now. And this is a completely different sport. But we have seen people return from bone bruises after a week and a half, 2 weeks. I think a more realistic timetable will be probably in the 1 month range. We saw Mike Trout suffer a similar injury about a year ago, and it took him a month to come back.
Jeff, that's going to be my follow-up question, though, because it felt like as much as criticism was due on Arch and his performance, a lot of it also boils down to the offensive line not holding up their fair share of the bargain. Having that injury obviously colors a little bit of the answer here, but how much can Longhorns fans expect an improvement on that side?
I think they can expect a huge improvement on the offensive line. And it was so strategic, man. Ever since the implementation of the transfer portal and NIL, I feel like Texas has done such a smart job of attacking deficiencies in the offseason. And what you just spoke about, I think of the Florida game where Arch Manning spent as much time on his back with Florida defenders on top
Yep.
of him than he did taking snaps. He took 8 sacks or something like that in that game. I think ever since that game, they made a concerted effort to maybe set some funds aside, set some recruiting efforts aside to get more experienced and more talented on the offensive line. They did exactly that. And you know what else helped them? Even if this injury turns out to be something that cost Trevor Gooseby 1 or 2 games at the beginning of the season, remember about a week ago when Cole Hudson, I think he's from y'all's part of the state. I think he's from Frisco. Cole Hudson got that good legal news. The court came back and said, Cole, you can return to the 40 acres for a 5th season of eligibility. He has experience starting on the interior offensive line. Right now, Brandon Baker is slated to be a starting guard for Texas. If they need help at tackle because Trevor Gooseby misses a game or two, they can move Brandon Baker back out to tackle where he started all season last year and move Cole Hudson back into guard where he started all season last year. That version of the offensive line, obviously not as talented as it would be if Trevor Gooseby was there, but still a very talented and very experienced offensive line, all because the Longhorns brought in multiple starting caliber transfers to plug other holes. So a really strategic approach that is paying off now in what could be close to a worst case scenario, a top 3 or 4 player on a top 1 or 2 roster in the nation going down.
Jeff, I don't mean to belabor the point, but it feels like we've been talking but nothing but about injunctions this entire summer, and I'm getting a little sick of it, I'll be honest. The follow-up, though, I do want to ask, just in terms of the general flow of college football right now, because everyone's talking about the Jaden Daniels stuff, and I'm trying to think of a comp in Texas history that could even come close to like a Heisman Trophy winner, or let's just say Vince Young. Like, remove the championship, but he gets the Heisman, right? Could you imagine him trying to pull this stunt 2 years later?
Absolutely not. That relationship, specifically with a guy like Vince Young, a guy like Jamal Charles, these are guys who I see all the time at Texas events, like UT sports events, and just at events around the community. And so, like, they make it a point to stay intertwined with the future of Longhorn athletics and the future of athletics and community success here in Austin. So, could I see one of them pulling something like this? Absolutely not. I also think, and this, I don't know the people in Baton Rouge. I haven't talked to the powers that be about how it exactly went down. But if people in that athletic complex knew that this was a touchy subject for Jaden Daniels, why not just do him the favor of, stroking the ego for another year or two, letting this young man who is on the roster currently pick a different number, just avoiding the conflict to keep this relationship intact. Because you never know when a relationship like that is going to pay off. Jaden Daniels is a young star in the NFL. I know all of us love fantasy football, so do some high school athletes out there. What if the next Jaden Daniels is a huge Jaden Daniels fan, and now he's turned off by LSU because of this controversy? I think if there was a way to sidestep this conflict, they should have exercised that.
I don't dispute that. It just feels interesting getting the perspective, because I've tried to make the same argument, and I've got talked down many times from people who are just going like, why is Jaden doing this? Because it feels like it puts him in a negative light and changes how people view him, as opposed to keeping a relationship with a franchise, or I say a franchise, but they're getting to be franchises at this point. But a program that has the prestige and honor that LSU has when he was only there for 1 year.
Yeah, and to add to that, I mean, this close to the NFL season, returning from injury in a division that is going to be tight, but is also going to be up for grabs, I think you got better stuff to worry about than this. I agree.
Just a touch.
All right, he got the Jane Daniels in, and I'm so upset because I had more Texas questions for you, but
it felt necessary. But no, there's one thing I did want to ask though. What's the expectation? What is your baseline for this Texas team, and what do you think is realistically possible?
Remember a moment ago when we talked about worst case scenarios? You drop one to Ohio State, you drop another one before November. The expectation in town is the exact opposite of that. The expectation is for the only really close game for a while to be the Ohio State game. The expectation is to go to Baton Rouge, probably in a night game, probably night game, ABC. That's the highlight, the pinnacle of SEC football right now. That's what I expect that matchup to be. And the expectation here in town is for the Burn Orange to be coming home with a win, coming home with smiles on their faces after that. The expectation is 2 more huge rivalry wins against Oklahoma and against Texas A&M. The expectation is championships with an S. And you know what I like is that the players and Coach Sark, they'll piggyback on that. They'll tell you that's the expectation. They'll say it with their chest. They're not going to be loud about it and, posting it everywhere and going out of their way to say it. But if you ask them straight up to a man, what are you guys going to do this season? They say we're going to win, and we're going to win big.
I could listen to you all day long every day. Like, you're smiling, and I'm sitting here like this.
I was going to say, it's her job to be loud about it. That's what this is.
No, I'm an unbiased reporter. What are we talking about?
Sure.
Jeff Jones, you are one of one. Thank you so much for the time.